Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Eddie Kirkland. Eddie is the principal data scientist at ICF. Eddie, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. So lots to cover today, Eddie, but let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us an overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and how you got to where you are today as the principal data scientist for ICF?
Tech is not necessarily where I thought I was going to end up in my career. I started out in school. I studied in college. I studied statistics and loved it, fell in love with it at university, undergrad. But the data science boom hadn't really happened at that point. When I left college, I actually pursued other passions. I went into music. I went into the world of nonprofits for a while. And so I was just doing a bunch of different things that were really interesting and creative. And then about 6 or 7 years ago or so, started wondering what was going on in that world that I had left since my undergrad degree. Unbeknownst to me, the data science world had exploded. Obviously, as compute power became, more readily available, the processing became cheaper, and it became possible to not just, work in MATLAB like I was doing in college, but now you can do all kinds of stuff through Python and even through just basic applications. So I came back to it. I started studying up on it on my own and realized that this was really where I wanted to go. So I made a pretty major pivot and went from that past career into the world of data science, and I love it. And so that to me is really interesting because that will always be a part of my story of bringing the creativity of that music side, bringing the leadership and entrepreneurial side of the nonprofit experience that I have, but also bringing that together with my passion for data and problem solving through data and through creating kind of data-driven software solutions. And that's why I really love this job at ICF. It brings all those threads together and lets me use that in a really unique way.
Thank you for that, Eddie. And I'm sure we'll touch on the benefits of the pivot later on in the conversation, but taking us to where you just left now, as you mentioned, you now find yourself at ICF. So for those listening not familiar with ICF, tell us all about the company, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
ICF is a really great company. So we're based out of Washington, D.C., but it's an international company with thousands of employees. It was started, over 50 years ago by one of the Tuskegee Airmen, which is a pretty cool story. And so it's always had a unique role in the government consulting area, and then also in consulting for corporations. Obviously, there's a lot of different players in that world, but ICF has this kind of unique lane of bringing together subject matter expertise and technological expertise and really prioritizing the combination of those things. So we serve a lot of government clients. We have a lot of a footprint in public health. We have a big footprint in energy and infrastructure. We also have a footprint with different companies around the world, for-profit companies. But a lot of what we do is really focused on trying to provide some subject matter expertise and provide people that are very good at understanding the domain that they're trying to help in. And then also, pairing with that technological expertise that can take it to the next level. So it's not just approaching everything with kind of the technological hammer of the day, but it's really trying to start from the ground level and say, what is the problem at the source? How can we understand the domain? And then how can we find the right technology to come alongside it? And it's ICF, it's a company I believe has a heart. Our mission is to make the world a more prosperous and resilient place for all. And I see that in so many different areas of what we do, whether it's from sustainability efforts or clean energy work that we do. It's just all across the board. we're interested in doing work that is good for humanity overall.
Amazing. Great overview. And I can attest that everything you said is accurate. ICF is an incredible company and has an amazing reputation in the space.
Yeah.
So just to continue on what you just finished on there, you talked about doing some amazing work in the space. So let's jump straight into the AI and data science that's going on and your role. So if you can help us visualize the data science org, your role within it, what it's like day to day, and maybe highlight some of the recent projects that you and your team have been working on, which best demonstrate the positive impact that you're having to your customers and how that transpires and connects to all of us as the customers of your customers.
One of the things that's unique about my role and what we do at ICF is a lot of our data focused people. So the people that are skilled data scientists, data engineers, AI engineers, stuff like that, they're currently serving tons of different customers. So they're taking these technical skills and applying them to really unique problems all across the board. And so part of my role is to serve one client in particular. So I work very closely day to day on a research and development contract. So we're doing a lot of machine learning and AI based R&D for a government client. But then also I'm able to help lots of other agencies, other companies. And we've got this team of amazing data scientists that are applying AI, Gen AI, and traditional machine learning to lots of different problems in different areas. And so that way we can learn from each other. We can share best practices. I would say over the past 10 years, it's been a journey for ICF, moving from expertise in just analytics and doing some of that visual storytelling with data, and then adding to that the machine learning capabilities, being able to do some predictive modeling, then adding to that, being able to work very closely with neural network models and do some more robust analysis. And then in the last 2 years, we've really tried to get out in front of generative AI because we just believe that it's something that really can be transformational if it's handled the right way. It can also be really, dangerous if it's not handled the right way. So we've tried to get out in front of it and make that an area that we can help our clients learn the power of it without being afraid of it, but also learning how to leverage it in an ethical and responsible way.
So Eddie, you mentioned there you guys decided to lean into the generative AI field space because you saw the positive impact that it can have. And since that decision, ICF has been making strides in its adoption of AI and data projects that you're winning with your customers. You've invested heavily. Talk to us about that 2-year journey from the decision and some of the milestones, and take us up to today where you and the organization are in that investment.
I think this, again, is one of the benefits of being a company that really focuses on listening to the subject matter experts and listening to the people that are on the ground doing some of this day-to-day work. When the generative AI bubble started to come to the surface, what we realized very quickly was all of a sudden projects that had been pretty difficult and pretty nebulous that were specifically related to natural language processing, all of a sudden with these chat-based LLM models, they became not only much simpler, but they became extremely powerful. And what we found was all of our different people that are embedded with projects across spanning the gamut, they started coming back to us very quickly and saying, hey, we have troves of text data that we need to process. We just have tons of information that we've never been able to do anything with other than having incredibly slow, inefficient checking documents one by one. And so because of that, we realized that generative AI had a real transformational possibility for these organizations, because everybody has mountains of text that they don't know what to do with. It's sitting in files, it's sitting in folders, it's in PDFs that have just been stored up forever and ever. And so what it allowed us to do is to take this new technology and begin helping clients mine data that they already had available. They didn't have to go out and buy it. They didn't have to go out and find it. They already had it. But we're now able to help them take that data and start putting it to use to meet their objectives and to accomplish their mission. So we very early on said, this can be a real game changer for people. And at the same time, realized that there's a lot of power in it, but there's also a lot of areas for it to be abused and areas for it to be handled the wrong way. And so we wanted to get our feet wet immediately so we could start learning what it can do and what it can't do, and so that we could advise clients with an open and honest conversation about where it should be considered for use and where it's not needed or where it can even be harmful, so that we can have that knowledge and not just speak about it with buzzwords and all the current lingo.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, a lot of what you're saying is managing expectations of what's possible and in what order things need to be done to get the maximum benefit of Gen AI and its capabilities. And a lot of the time, it's a hard truth to say people need to tackle the more mundane tasks before they can move to the more advanced capabilities. Having said that, because a lot of the customers you work with, you've had long-standing relationships, you will have been helping them get the foundational level of their data in order. Are there any recent examples that you could share with us? Obviously, you might not be able to disclose the exact organization, but any recent examples of where you were able to introduce aspects of Gen AI that are now deployed and having a real-time positive impact for customers?
I would say most of the work that we're doing, especially since this is so brand new, it has started in several different areas as small pilot projects that we start hand in hand with a client to help them start to scope out what is possible and where the greatest effort is going to bring the greatest result. And for instance, with one client, we were able to get one of the very first contracts that was ever awarded in the federal government that was specifically around this idea of building out a pilot using generative AI to try and help synthesize text from people out in the general public. So people were submitting different thoughts and they needed to be able to synthesize that information to be able to say, what is the general sense of what people are saying? What are the specific areas that we may need to be concerned about based on these thoughts that are being expressed? And so we were able to fully flesh out that pilot and help them imagine ways in which that could be used in a fully productionized system. And then for another federal agency, we developed a pipeline that runs in Azure Databricks. And that pipeline ingests social media data. It processes it through a lot of traditional machine learning methods. So some traditional models and then like a BERT-based natural language processing model. But then as one of the very last steps, we take this raw text that we have and we leverage a generative AI model to mine specific data points out of it. Different categories, different labels, different dates and organizations and things that would have been really difficult to mine prior to generative AI. And that system, we were able to pilot it, and now we're actually helping them get it all the way deployed into production, and it's creating a new system that they're using every single day, which is extremely helpful, and it's something that wouldn't have been possible 6 months ago, let alone 6 years ago.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
So when you look at the next chapter for ICF, particularly the next 1 to 2 years, given how fast things move in this space, what are you most excited about for you and your team? What are you looking to work on? What are you hoping to accomplish? And when we think of the impact of the success, how will that translate into the growth of the AI and data team at ICF?
I think one of the things that I'm most excited about working on is opportunities to help different clients, whether it's a government agency or for-profit company, but helping these clients create safe sandbox environments where they can begin experimenting with generative AI and they can allow their own workforce to start surfacing different ideas that can provide transformative impact in their business. So what we found is a lot of the best ideas for these generative AI applications are coming from people who are doing the everyday, day-to-day work. And they're the ones that are surfacing an idea that says, man, this part of my job, if I could have help in this area, it could really revolutionize the way we do things. And so as ICF, one of the best things that we get the opportunity to do is to help that organization create a space for those things to be tried out in a safe way, where the data security is taken care of and the ethics of the AI models are considered, but where they can test out these different ideas and then realize which ones of them have the greatest long-term value. And I think in a world like this, where the technology is changing so fast, that's a really helpful way to take a step forward, because building a giant system based on this technology may not be the right call for someone right now, because 6 months in, that technology may change and there may be a better option. So instead, allowing them to have an environment and the knowledge and wherewithal to be able to try and experiment, it allows them to continue to flex and to grow and to explore new things and new ideas. And then I think just generally in the AI space, the thing I'm most interested in and what I most am looking forward to seeing is not large language models, but small language models, and seeing how much these gigantic models can be compressed into the size of something that can work on someone's laptop or their phone and still have really good impact, because that helps bypass a lot of the security concerns, a lot of passing data back and forth to third-party APIs. You get rid of all that stuff and you just allow someone to process things on their device. It's going to open up even more doors for this technology to be able to be used in a responsible, safe way.
So Eddie, obviously very exciting times ahead for the data org at ICF. And going back to one of the things you just said there is a lot of these customers may not have the time, resources, or budget to invest in these big systems to implement AI, because it may change down the road. With that said, there are some systems out there and some platforms which are making the adoption of AI far easier with the added layer of security. And I know our mutual friend, Mr. Alex Beachy at ICF, working on the ServiceNow side of things, is all part of the broader AI strategy.
Yes.
Switching gears then slightly, it's clear and obvious from what we've just discussed that the next few years at ICF are going to be incredibly exciting from an AI and data science standpoint, as it will be with the ServiceNow side of things, from a previous interview we've done with Alex. And I want to come full circle, because you led the conversation in explaining why ICF is such an incredible company to work for, given its impact. I want to bring it now back to the people side of things. As one of the leaders of the data science group, you are not just working with customers and working on projects, but you're also shaping the direction of the team, and with that, getting involved in the hiring side of things. When you're speaking to people about ICF who are candidates for a position within your broader team, what is it that you tell them that gets them excited enough to join ICF over some of the other great companies also trying to hire?
That's a really good question. It's probably two kind of major things. The first being that ICF, and specifically the consulting world, and in many cases the government consulting world, it can get a pretty bad rap in terms of being a pretty pressuring, intensive, terrible work-life balance. That can be the label that most people use when they think about this. The culture of ICF is very different than that, and it has been since the day I joined. The culture has been on valuing the people that are a part of this organization and equipping them with everything they need, so that we can not just crank out work, but that we can really deliver quality solutions for people. And so, that idea of having a place that has a heart to it and a soul and a company behind you that understands the realities of working life, that's a really big deal. And then the other piece, I think, is just the benefit of being in an organization that allows people to try out a lot of different things. One of the things I love the most about ICF is there's this constant exploration of what people are really passionate about and what they're really gifted in, and trying to help them find the right project or mix of projects that helps hit all of those things, that helps them do the work that they love to do, work that's challenging, find new areas that they want to grow and stretch and expand, And I've found at ICF, there's just this always a willingness to do that, to try and place people as much as we can in places where they're challenged, but they're also rewarded and they are fulfilled with the work that they get to do. And then, one other thought, if I can add it in there, is I personally tend to really hammer home the idea that the work that we do, we always try to tie it back to purpose. This idea of building that more prosperous, resilient world for all, that's real. And that really does come into play in every single place that we're impacting clients. And so I think for many people, if they're like me, they want to know that their work is going to make meaningful impact. And this organization specifically is a place that you not only get to work with data science and do some of the latest and most interesting stuff, but you get to do it in ways that are actually trying to move the needle of benefiting the world.
Thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. I really appreciate you sharing your own background and your journey, particularly the pivot and how it's paid off for you. But most importantly, a look behind the scenes of the incredible data and AI team at ICF. And as you rightly mentioned, it's having tremendous success and getting great recognition, and it feels like it's only just beginning. So there's obviously a lot of growth in store, a lot of continued success, and ICF are establishing themselves as being a player to watch with AI implementations within the public sector. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at ICF the very best of luck in months and years to come, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thanks so much. It's been great to be a part. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.